Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today is a special. We had Extra Life recently, and it really threw off our schedule podcast. And I'm joined, as always, by Pete, the improviser, Busby.
Hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Glad to be here for our special impromptu post Extra Life podcast. There we go. Great name. And I was happy to raise some money for charity. So let's talk about it.
Yes, so today's episode is going to push back our Hellblade podcast because Extra Life drained us of the time we would have used to play Hellblade. We could not, unfortunately, play Hellblade as I'd wanted during Extra Life because my computer I tried streaming it, and it does not. I couldn't really play it in the way that I wanted to play it and stream it at the same time because you really need to pay attention and talking. Like, I would not have been able to take what I want out of that game if I was also trying to entertain people at the same time. So it just seemed like a bad fit, which means we have to push that podcast back a week, which means we need something to fill a week, which means, hey, why don't we talk about that 24-hour video game marathon we did? That seems appropriate for this video game podcast.
Yeah, it is sort of what we do.
Yep. And this time, it was not as self-destructive. I thought it was going to be way more self-destructive than it was. So that's good.
I was expecting, so I packed multiple rolls of athletic tape for finger blisters. Not as big of an issue as I might have thought.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, we did not play any games that required intense, joystick work, and no one was playing for that long continuously.
Like, did you ever play that old, like in the first Mario Party, they had that game where you'd fly the Shy Guy copter, and you just had to, like, rotate it really, really fast?
Yeah, you mean that game where you had to rip all of the skin off of your palm?
Yeah, like, it was basically a stigmata simulator.
Yep. Unfortunately, I am very familiar with what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, I don't inflict Mario Party on my house guests.
I've always hated that game, but that's neither here nor there.
There's some people who stand by it. I don't get it.
No,
I don't get
nor do
it. I mean, usually the answer when people like things and I don't, that, are clearly bad, the answer is they're children. But in this case, there are still people who are adults who stand by it. Zombie Pie is a big Mario Party defender.
Yeah, I'll never get it.
It's fine. He has poor taste. We know this. So if you want to get in touch with the show, send us feedback, you can do so at deeplistenspod, deeplistens.libsyn.com. You can hit our comment sections up or deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. And you could sound something like this. We have feedback.
What?
Yeah.
What do you got?
This is on our Hatoful Boyfriend podcast from our comment section. This comes from someone who goes only by D. And they say, what do you mean when you say developers pay $5,000 to $6,000 to get their games on Steam? The fee is $100. Thank you, D. ZP claimed that people spend too much money to get their games onto Steam. It was in the context of Hatoful Boyfriend leading to a bunch of knockoff clones to be created. And he was bemoaning the fact that people spend actual time and effort on their games only to have them swallowed up by shitty knockoffs. And in that comment, he said he gave a number of $5,000 to $6,000. I would say, yes, like the fee to get on Steam is like $100, but you probably want to contract out to a team that does QA and stuff like that. You probably want to actually test your game and put some money into it. So if you're just going to be a, development house that is churning out hot garbage, then yes, it's only $100. But if you're putting any kind of effort or love into your product, you're spending well more than $5,000 to $6,000.
Mm. And I will say any amount of dollars would be too many dollars to get Hatoful Boyfriend on Steam.
But you found love. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll discuss it at some point.
I'm sure we'll discuss it. So thank you, D, and thank you for correcting that number. Yes, the fee you pay to Valve, not that much, but the fee of your life, the pounds of flesh that you contribute to your game, That is probably about $5,000 to $6,000. So, let's discuss Extra Life 2017. It was quite a weekend. You visited.
Yep.
This was your first gaming marathon, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, beyond like nights spent in adolescent, but as like an actual scheduled marathon, yeah, this is my first one.
So what do you think? Because we've done the community endurance run now for like 4 years or 5 years, but you were not a part of it up until now because you were too busy learning. Quotes, air quotes.
Yeah. I also didn't have a car, and now I do. But it was good. It's so I will say, like, in terms of streaming it, that gets a lot more difficult just because you have to say things like a lot. Like there's a lot of, if it's 24 hours, there's a lot of just dead time you need to fill when like stuff might not necessarily be happening in the game itself. But in terms of playing an actual game, I think the key is, I think at least to switch it up. So I know you've done, or I know at least Zombie Pie's done in the past, like just sort of picked a Final Fantasy game and tore through it. I don't think I could do that. I think for something like this, I would need variety. I think that's key, sort of genre switching.
Yeah, that certainly helps. I think to keep like interest, but when I've done long marathons of single games, I'm usually doing it with practice. Like I've played the single game a whole bunch of times, so there's a level of expertise, and I like to view it as a way to educate the audience, about a thing that I really love. So I don't generally subject myself to long playthroughs of games that I hate or don't don't know very well. Like I'm not gonna Desert Bus for Hope, which is a marathon that some people do where they play Desert Bus, which is a game that simulates driving a bus from LA to Vegas and back. And you get 1 point for every trip you take, and I believe it is in real time.
Ooh, wonderful. Who would bother to build such a thing?
And the best part is that the bus drifts. Its tires are not aligned properly, so it drifts slightly to the left. So you can't take your hands off the controls, or you will get off the road.
What a nightmare. I think, yeah. I mean, what you're saying makes sense, especially if you have a game that has a depth to it, a rhythm to it, and you're doing basically like a playthrough as close reading. Like it's like when we had we used to do marathon reads in college, but that was sort of a different story. But if you take something like this will be a little highfalutin for a video game comparison, but if you take something like Shakespeare, you can just sort of work your way through it piece by piece and like stop periodically and just go, all right, here's what's going on, here's why this is important, here's why this is cool. And I think if you had a game like that, it might lend itself to that longer, more sustained attention.
Yeah, and I've started a Final Fantasy IX playthrough / close reading streaming thing that I'm gonna pick up again with a similar idea. But I think that the key that I found for this event, as opposed to the community endurance runs I've run in the past, is everyone was in the same room, which I thought was pretty fun. Like community endurance runs in the past, me and Billy tend to be in separate rooms, and generally there might be like one or two other people in the room with me, but they are playing their own games. So it's kind of a bunch of people all playing games in close proximity, but not with each other. And I thought that this time, one of the key things that I think made this Extra Life stream so fun and successful overall was, not necessarily in money raising, but in terms of my personal enjoyment, was that everyone was in on whatever the thing was. I think there's still room for like competition, but having some people who were just like floating around, just looking at the main games that were getting played and having banter, I think was better than just plugging away at two separate games in proximity.
Absolutely right. The more people you have involved together, the better off it's going to be. And what's nice about something like that is you could have sort of a structure we sort of set up almost, where we had a few core people who were like, all right, we're going to stick this thing out. And then other people just came and went as they pleased. And they don't have to do the whole 24 hours, but it's nice just, all right, they can come in, hang out for a bit, play a little bit, and then bounce when they're ready. And the more people you have like that too, the more fun it'll be, in the same way as like switching up the games makes it a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think that's a format that a lot of game sites and game players have stumbled upon for these kind of events, and I think it's with good reason. I definitely, when the community endurance run comes around this year, I will definitely invite you and other people back up, and we will see if we can recreate the magic.
Absolutely, if I can, count me in.
Because I believe I am hosting this year.
Okay.
So it should be fun. But yeah, it was an enjoyable experience, and we had a schedule. We had one scheduled event, and then winging it from then on. The one scheduled event. So when we started Extra Life, I think I invited you over, and I sent a text like, "I have an idea. I have a few ideas for some video content. Here's one that I'm in love with," and I called it. I think at first it was the idea was we'd have this wheel that had bad games on it, and it was going to be an improvisational game where we had to play bad games and then convince a panel of judges that they're good.
Yep.
That was my idea at first. And then I realized, one, I don't own enough bad games to do that, and two, I thought that we could mix it up. I think that's an idea we might still use at some point.
Yeah, it's a good idea, but I mean, it's one we can execute, whenever, really.
Yeah. The one I wanted to try was the definitive way to play, and my idea was centered around playing games, good games, but with bad control schemes. Intentionally poor control schemes in order to make them bad. Take the good and then drag it down. And it involved playing such things as Street Fighter with a drum pad, a Rock Band drum pad, playing Gears of War with a guitar, playing Viva Pinata, where you have to murder all the pinatas as soon as they enter Pinata Town. Some other, I think there was one Dead Space, but you have to exclaim that everything is very cute and that it is a children's game.
You have to play it as if it were a game for children.
Yeah, so we kept, and then we had a panel of judges who were there to deem what was the funniest and the most accurate portrayal of the definitive way to play. And I believe you won for Guitars of War.
I think I did. Well, I mean, I had an advantage just because Guitars of War was one of the strongest premises we had, but it was just chaos. So however the mapping works, the camera gets mapped to the whammy bar. So you're trying to sort of position this whammy bar perfectly so you stop just spinning wildly out of control. So for the first, minute, 2 minutes, it's just spinning, just rapid spinning, until we finally figured out the perfect position for the whammy bar, and then we just sort of stood there for a while. But like I said in the stream, if you want to check it out, it's all a metaphor for the chaos of war and the disorientation we experience in this state of constant sort of struggle and warfare. It's deep. There's a depth to it that you don't get when you play with a regular controller.
So on top of the whammy, so the important thing to know about the Guitar Hero controller that I now know because we played Guitars of War is that apparently whatever motion sensor is in the guitar to allow you to execute star power is the y-axis, is the y-axis on, I guess, the right thumbstick. So if it is oriented up, it will be like you're holding up on the y-axis, and if it's oriented down, it's like down, and then the whammy bar is the x-axis. So to remain stationary, not spinning, you have to have the guitar completely horizontal and the whammy bar at exactly 50%.
Yep.
And then you can look straight.
Yep, and that like just gets you to stop. It basically stops you from throwing up on the screen.
Yes. And then the A button, because there's a roadie run and a dodge roll, you can move by using that, but you don't have the other thumbstick, so you can't just walk around.
Yep.
And then you could change weapons, and you somehow shot, and I don't know.
Somehow, yeah. All of a sudden, bullets came out. I have no idea how I did it.
Yeah, that was magical, how you made bullets come out. I don't know how you did that. We could melee pretty routinely. But yeah, I don't recommend that. Guitars of War speed run coming soon.
It's going to take 17 weeks, but that's the fastest you can possibly do it.
It's basically Twitch plays Pokemon, but an adult with a shitty control scheme.
I think the only thing the definitive way to play was missing, now that I think about it a little bit more, but I don't think either of us have access to one, would be a DDR mat. If we could have played something with the mat, full dance controls, that would have been a solid way to play pretty much any game.
Yeah, I was trying to acquire one of those. So some of the other ideas I floated was a Nintendo Switch. So you play like Legend of Zelda, but because you have these two thumbsticks, you're supposed to hold one in each hand. You play it, but two different people hold each thumbstick.
Yeah, that would have been good too.
So each player has half a controller. That seemed good. And then just I couldn't find any Donkey Konga Congo drums.
those bongos.
Those bongos. I was looking for those.
Was there anything else that peripheral was used for?
Nothing that it was used for, but I want to find out what it could do.
How many buttons would, like, if you hit different parts of the bongos, is it different buttons?
I just want to know. I want to plug it in and then boot up Mario Sunshine and see how much I can move.
We might have to investigate that.
Yes. So this bad idea just means that there will be more bad ideas in the future.
Yeah, this one has legs.
Yeah. So maybe for the community endurance run, we could have some other ones. But that was a fun way to start. Another standout, I think, was playing Street Fighter with the drum pad.
Yeah.
That was my first thing. We got the two bangers one after another, but that was pretty good because each of the drum pads was a different attack button, and then the bass drum, the kick pedal, was heavy. So I was just slamming on that. And there's actually a D-pad on the drum pad, so I could move. I had complete movement control. There were two buttons that I couldn't hit, and then there were certain moves that were just logistically impossible.
I think it's worth telling our listeners, too, Gino does not have drumsticks. So his first thought in his infinite wisdom was, well, I'll play with pens. I'll get two pens, and I'll use those to play until our ghost in the room, our player to be named later, offered wooden spoons, which made a bajillion times more sense, and we started to play with spoons instead.
Oh yeah, that was the key. That was the difference between me
Big
doing
switch.
poorly and succeeding was spoons versus pens.
Yeah. Something vaguely drumstick shaped.
Sure. I did really enjoy when I picked Balrog and then used his incredibly fast jab.
Just jabbed over and over again.
By just doing some runs on the snare. That is a case where truly that was the definitive way to play.
It worked. It worked perfectly. You lost the fight, but I felt like you should have won. I don't know what the judges saw there.
I felt like a winner.
Yep.
So after that, was it Brave Fencer Musashi time after that? Or did we play? No, we played some Hello Kitty, I think.
Yes, we did. We did play a little bit of the Hello Kitty.
We played some Hello Kitty Cube Frenzy.
Yep.
Which, that game sure is a game.
Once we realized there was a tutorial in story mode, why there's a story mode, I couldn't tell you. But when we finally figured out how to play, it was in fact a game.
It was in fact a game. Can confirm, possible to win, possible to lose.
True.
I was really unsettled by the kitty pictures that would appear at the beginning and end of every round, where it was just Hello Kitty looking soullessly into my eyes.
I just feel like there's such like a deep mythology around Hello Kitty that I'm not privy to in the least. Like, there's a backstory of some sort. There must be.
Yes, I mean, some of these characters have names, so...
Yeah, they have lives. They're characters, but I don't know.
Apparently the penguin, if you hit him on the head with a block, he gets mad and he kicks. And then there's a panda, and then if he gets mad, he runs over and he flips things. Right. It's crazy.
Even so, as far as I'm concerned, there's really no difference between Hello Kitty and the little horse on polo shirts. But, like, there must be. It's not just a brand.
Hello Kitty is a different cut.
Yeah.
It's not just the the Ralph Lauren logo or the crocodile, the Crocs croc
Right? Does the Lacoste crocodile have a backstory? Like, does he have friends that he hangs out with? I don't know.
He's a member of Knuckles Chaotix. He's Vector the crocodile. He's on hard times.
if like if like Gucci like as a brand just rotated through Sonic characters like every once in a while as their logo. Like, I guess this is
Oh,
Big the Cat season.
oh
Next
wow!
will be Shadow.
And here's Charmy the bee. Who doesn't forget Charmy? Just
You know
nothing,
that super well known character.
nothing but chaotix. Ugh. So yeah, we played a little bit of Hello Kitty Cube Frenzy. That game is a game.
Yep.
I think after Hello Kitty was a little bit. Well, we played more Viva Pinata than I thought we would. What did you think of Viva Pinata? Have you ever played it before?
No, it's the first time I've ever played it. It's good. I've never been sort of drawn to like simmy sort of games, you know what I mean? Like, or maybe tycoon sort of games, I should say. And like as one of those is probably one of the better I've played, but I've never been particularly interested in the genre.
Well, you
Although,
can.
despite I did pick Slime Rancher last game, but all the same,
Yeah, and you can make those pinatas do some stuff.
yeah, you can definitely make them do some stuff. There's a lot more romance than I was necessarily expecting.
There was a non-zero amount of romance.
Yep,
And there
well,
was a non-zero amount of conflict. There were some
true.
pinatas that just did not get along, and they
No,
wanted blood. Well, not blood.
they
Candy.
went candy. Yeah, whatever is on the inside.
Hey, remember when you whacked that pinata to death, it exploded, and then its pinata children came and ate its
Came and
entrails?
ate it. Yeah. There's a lot of pinata cannibalism, more than one would expect.
That game was for children. It was for children, and then Microsoft made a children's cartoon that appeared on Saturday mornings to promote Viva Pinata.
Was there the same level of pinata doing it on the show?
I don't know. Unclear. Let's watch. We'll find out.
Eh,
Actually, let's never watch.
no.
I take that back immediately.
I'll just Google, do pinatas do it at some point? I'm sure I won't find anything weird at all.
Safe search off.
Yep, it'll be fine. I'll do it at work tomorrow.
Yep. And then we played Brave Fencer Musashi. Well, I played Brave Fencer Musashi, and then everyone else played like card games behind me. It seemed like
Yeah, for whatever reason, we just sort of checked out of that one.
weird.
Yeah, right?
So I will have more things to say about Brave Fencer Musashi in the not too distant future.
Have you finished it yet?
No,
Okay.
I'm playing it though.
You certainly are.
I keep getting scrolls. I miss when I was first playing the game. I happened across a character who is voiced by the guy who voices the main character in Cowboy Bebop. I think Steve Bloom, is that his name? Steve Bloom.
I can tell you.
He voices the Kung Fu Man in Cowboy Bebop. What's
Okay.
that guy's name?
Ah, dude, it's been too long.
Well, he voices that guy, and all the other voices in that entire game are trash. Most of the voice actors went on to do nothing, but they had one competent voice actor, and he played a character who was stuck in the stockades at the beginning of the game, and then he vanishes. And it just makes me so sad.
Let me ask you just one question about Brave Fencer Musashi. How important are the different sword combos? Like, do you use them, or is it just like hit X a whole bunch of times, really?
I use them by accident. Well, I do it intentionally. They do more damage
Okay.
than just doing the normal attacks. And some of them result in a knockback on enemies that is useful, because certain enemies, if they get up on you, will just wreck shop. So you just want to knock them back and then get them while they're in their like recovery animation. So they are more useful than I expected. It's actually a level of depth that I didn't remember the game having at all. So
Okay.
Early on, you're just kind of alternating between this fast attack and this heavy attack, and then as you rescue characters, you get more and more combos, and as you get those combos, it starts becoming relevant, which is good. I mean, I expected the
Yeah.
game to have like no depth.
Yeah, sure.
Like, that's more depth than I think Zelda games have when it comes to actually fighting.
Yeah, I was gonna say Zelda. Maybe you use some of your accessories, but other than that, you're just hitting one attack button over and over again.
Yeah, Zelda adds complexity in the form of different items that behave
Right.
differently. Brave Fencer Musashi takes a core combat system and then expands on it,
Which
which is
makes
interesting.
sense. Yeah, and it makes sense given that it's about a famous historical swordsman. You know,
Yeah, but on the other hand, he's in the all-you-can-eat kingdom, surrounded by food people.
so 100% historically accurate is what we're saying.
Yeah, it's got more historical references than I expected it to have, but yeah, the historical accuracy questionable.
Yeah.
So after Brave Fencer Musashi, after we vetoed that game, what was next?
Um.
Was it Gotham Racing? Or no, it was Hatoful Boyfriend, I think.
Yeah, it was Hatoful Boyfriend, and then we did
We got
Midnight Club after that.
a $50 donation between two people.
Yes, we were bribed.
Superfan Kyle and Chris Zombie Pie Redacted combined their powers to make you play Hatoful Boyfriend.
I'll never forgive them.
What did you think?
Um. So, what did I think? This is a tough question. So I was worried I was going to learn some things about myself. Not necessarily like I have no problem with, playing a female character searching for male mates. That's fine with me. I was worried I'd be super attracted to pigeons by the end of the game. I mean, that's just at 26, that's a lifestyle change I'm just not ready for. I'm happy with liking humans at this stage of my life. And the problem with so I decided early on, like the very first time the character was introduced, that I wanted to end up with one of them. I forget. Remember what his name was?
It was Fancy Pigeon's brother.
Yeah,
I
Fancy
think it
Pigeon.
was Utah.
So, yeah, something like that. Some Y name. I decided he was my dude. So I tried to play, or my pigeon dude. I tried to play with that in mind. And I think that's the problem with personality tests and dating sims, right? You can tell at the beginning what outcome you want, and then you sort of not cheat, but try to structure your responses that way, as opposed to thinking, how would I behave organically in this situation, were it the post-apocalypse, and were I attracted to pigeons for some sort of reason, right? So you have these counterfactuals you have to accept.
Yeah, did I ever tell you the story of one time when my wife tricked me into, well, she didn't trick me. She got me to take a Harry Potter, like, what house are you quiz.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I hadn't read the books, and she gave me this personality test that was on, like, harrypotter.com or some, like, the actual J.K. Rowling site. And I hadn't read the books, so I didn't know that, like, half of the questions are obvious tells.
Yeah.
For which one you want. And so I just kept like answering, "Oh, it's sweet. I like the water. I'd love to be in a house that's underwater, surrounded by sunken ships. That's dope. Like all these other hangouts suck. Oh, do you want to do well on tests? Yeah. Do you want to do better than other people? Yeah. I mean, I'd like to achieve more than them. You're Slytherin. Well, shit. I guess I'm in the house full of assholes.
I think like I've taken one before and ended up in Slytherin as well. It's the place for the ambitious.
Yeah, but
How
also
did your
assholes.
wife react? Yeah, no, definitely assholes and potentially racists, but let's say not all.
Well,
Yeah, right.
not actually. When the time comes for the final battle in that book, they just lock them all up.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, we can't deal with it.
They start an internment camp for the Slytherins, and they just say, "We can't. You're not to be trusted." Yeah. So she thought it was appropriate. She's like, "You could have been Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, or Slytherin, and Slytherin, I guess, makes sense for you because you're ambitious." I'm like, "Well, what? Why the hell does it have to be nothing but assholes then? You could have had like one good dude in there, but you don't.
No, I don't know, man.
They're all treacherous as hell."
Yeah, and they get to the top.
All I'm happy with is that I wasn't a Hufflepuff.
No, nobody wants to be Hufflepuff.
They're good finders.
Are they? I don't think I could tell you a single thing about Hufflepuff.
They're badgers.
I know that.
Who cares?
Yeah,
This
squirrel.
is besides the point. Hatoful Boyfriend, we got to find out which whether you were a Slytherin, whether you were a pigeon
You know,
or a fan-tailed pigeon
and
or a mourning dove.
I ended up with my, well, sort of. I sort of ended up with my pigeon professor, which not great. Not a great way to be as an instructor.
Yeah.
You know, they
And
discourage that.
You really seem to uncover that the pigeon professor might be up to shit.
Yeah,
And then
there's something going on.
he seemed to want you. He was like okay with you maybe getting killed.
Yeah, no,
And
definitely.
then he dated you.
Not a great teacher, that guy. Although I did do very well on my midterm and final. I will say that for him. I did well on the tests.
When you date the teacher, you tend to do better on the tests.
Yeah. Weird, right? Extra credit, I guess.
That and you also. So your first playthrough was very close to my first playthrough. The only difference was when you encountered the side quest or like the side story where you work at a cafe during the summer. You ended up ending that sequence by telling this sparrow that she should reunite with this cockatoo that had scorned her. I told her to say fuck that guy. And if you tell her to say fuck that guy, you form a gang.
Much cooler ending.
And you go out into the night fighting punkidgeons.
As opposed to potentially dating your teacher some years down the line.
Yeah, and ZP was very emphatic that if you had not ended up with a teacher, things would have gone bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah. ZP was not happy about my play. But how am I supposed to know what sort of, seeds the instructor likes? I don't know.
Yeah, he went out of his way to just like... He was the asshole in chat who's telling you that you're playing wrong. But hey, we took his money, so
yeah,
joke's
right.
on him.
Yeah.
So after that, I think you just played some Project Gotham, right, for a while?
Midnight Club.
Some Midnight Club? Sorry.
Yeah, same basic thing. Yeah, I played some Midnight Club. I'm not very good, apparently, based on the responses I got in chat about that game, too. But it's a game I enjoy, and I don't mind being bad at. And just, I thought we could use something, I said this earlier, maybe something a little bit more fast twitch. Like most of the games we played were a little bit more narrative, a little bit more RPG style. So just switching up, doing something a little different, a little nostalgia back from my earlier days.
Yeah, what is it about that particular racing game that makes you enjoy it so much? Because I find that most people have like one racing game that they really love, and that, or either they love all racing games and that's kind of the only genre they play, or they played one, liked that one, and then just never played anyone ever again.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know why I picked Midnight Club as opposed to like Gran Turismo or Forza or something that's like a little bit more realistic. You know what I think it was? Is probably just I like the idea of racing in an active city. You know what I mean? Like when I played Mario Kart, I always thought Toad's Highway was one of the coolest levels because you're sort of dodging and weaving in through these cars. So that's really why I picked Midnight Club, is because you actually get to race in a city, and that makes it super frustrating because you have to figure out what the right path is from all these different check marks and all these different streets you can use. But it also makes it a lot of fun because you get to dodge cars, weave through stuff. And it's just bright and colorful and kind of fun. It's sort of like a midpoint between something like Mario Kart and something like Gran Turismo.
Yeah, and it definitely holds up, it seems like, even in a modern context.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it might not look amazing, but the idea of this kind of arcadey game where you're just slamming through all of these like doors and stuff, kind of making your own route, I think that's pretty unique. There's not a lot of racing games that actually give you divergent paths that feel organic. Usually it just is very clear that there's a shortcut. Whereas in this game, it seems like it's a lot more, oh, those are windows. I wonder if I could slam through them.
I think it definitely holds up, but I think something it could benefit from is like, how when people say, oh, Madden's really just, you're paying for roster updates. If you could do the same thing for something like Midnight Club, I think that'd be cool. Like, all right, new year, new fleet of cars. Because the only problem is, at this point, the cars are what? They're probably 10 years old at least, right? If we got some new car, like if I was driving a Bugatti Veyron, right, or another cool car that I'm blanking on for whatever reason. I know things about cars, trust me.
A
like
Tesla.
yeah, Zonda, right? That'd be sweet. Right?
It'd
So
be
just
very funny if you drove a Tesla and it's just silent.
Can you hit nitrous on a Tesla? Like, how do you
That
shoot nitrous into a battery?
that would be even better if you had to shoot nitrous into it.
But yeah, like if you could give racing games, basically roster updates, like every once in a while the cars get an update. I think that would give it a lot more legs.
I think one of the Gran Turismo or Forza games had that approach recently
Yeah, modern ones might be able to. I have no idea.
because they have online updates.
Exactly.
But yeah, that was a fun one. We I think played that. We took a nap. I call it a nap because we slept for like 5 hours because you had to drive
I
on
did.
Sunday, and
You were smart enough to take my health into consideration because, granted I might have crashed. Let's not even say might. I probably would have crashed if we tried to run it the whole way through.
yeah, it was just like I don't want to. I don't want you to have to sleep
Yeah.
over again.
It was very smart on your part.
I don't want to have to take your keys. But that 5 hours was key because it was daylight savings time. So
Yeah.
it was 1 o'clock and then 1 o'clock again,
Yeah, that's true.
which was a real bummer. And that 5 hours of sleep, actually, I woke up and felt like a human being, which I didn't expect.
Hmm.
Then you played a little bit more
Yeah, a little bit more
of your
Midnight Club.
driving.
Yep.
Then I think I put on some Chrono Cross for a bit.
Yeah, this is where we made sort of our JRPG turn. Actually, so it was Chrono Cross, then the music video, and then Chrono Cross again? Was that the timeline?
Yeah. So we started playing Chrono Cross, and then ZP woke up and said, "Hey, I'll give you $5 if you watch the first 10 minutes of Final Fantasy X-2 and show it to Pete."
Which just raised so many questions.
What do you go?
What? First off, just what? Okay. So, are they Charlie's Angels? Are they pop singers?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. They get their powers from changing clothes and then
Yes.
dancing.
Yes. Next.
Uh,
Any more?
so how did they? So she went from being an enchantress or like a summoner to a pop sensation somehow.
Yes.
How is that a natural progression?
It's not.
Is there an explanation for that progression?
No.
It just happens.
It just does.
What is the connection between 10 and 10-2?
They take place in the same world with the same characters.
But there's no like flashback oh, here's how we got here.
They released a connective tissue thing that was not part of the original game.
Of course.
It was after 10 in a later release of the game, they released some connective tissue, but it's very thin.
Were people just clamoring for these characters? Were they
No.
so beloved? No, they made an executive decision. This is what's happening now.
Well, what happened was Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within came out, and Square lost a lot of money very quickly, and they needed to get new money very quickly.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, coming into that moment with my only real Final Fantasy experience being the stuff I've gotten from you, I was very confused the whole time.
Good.
It was a cool music video. They had that robot playing drums. He was cool, but it's gibberish as far as I'm concerned.
You didn't like YRP in position, and then you fight a lady, and they talk about dress spheres. Oh,
yeah,
God.
And then they all get their little introductory pose, and the outfits are as absurd as you think they would be.
I would say 10 might be the most absurd the outfits ever get. 10 and 10-2, they're up there.
I was gonna say it's all when I picture having never played the games and having never even played 10-2, when I picture Final Fantasy, that's what I picture.
I'm sorry.
Somehow that has become the aesthetic of Final Fantasy as far as I'm concerned.
It's all Tetsuya Nomura's fault. Have you ever seen the character Lulu from Final Fantasy X?
I don't think so. How do you spell it?
Lulu.
I should have known.
You should see her, and I think she is the emblem of everything that is great and terrible at the same time.
Yeah, that looks about right. Yeah.
Do you see what her dress is made of?
It just looks like some sort of just belts the whole way down. It's turtles and belts.
It's a dress made of belts, and there's still a hole to show that she's wearing a garter and some stockings.
Yep, we still get a little thigh shot through all these belts.
Just in case there was a question. So that's, yes, I would say that yes, 10 and 10-2 is kind of all you need to know about the modern Final Fantasy sensibility. A lot of leather, a lot of belts, a lot of zippers. It's a world where the button never was invented.
Yeah, this is basically exactly what I picture.
Yep. I like to think that in this universe they invented the belt and then no one bothered to invent the button.
Yeah, they were just stop. We've done it. Mission accomplished.
So well, they have zippers, so they could have zipper flies. I was thinking like they have belts across their flies, like you might have a button fly.
a belt fly.
Yeah, that's what I imagined. It's just like 5 belts.
I'd like to think that like even Ziploc bags are a little too close, so they put belts on the top of those too instead of having a Ziploc.
Of course. Yeah, so we played some 10-2. That game's a nightmare. Thank God we don't have to talk about it. Oh, wait, no, we do. Oh, fuck. There's one more show, isn't there? There is. Fuck.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. We're almost done with it. We're almost done with 10-2. That game is bad, but in spots it's beautiful. Then we played some Chrono Cross. That's another game that is a frickin' trip.
Yeah. So there are infinite characters. Every person you talk to wants to join your party.
Here's a little game. Why don't you name a thing, and I'll tell you if it becomes a character.
Like just a thing?
Yeah, just like name some sort of archetype or some sort of thing, that just things that spring into your mind, and I'll tell you if it becomes a playable character.
Is there some sort of like tinkerer character, like some sort of scientist, inventor?
Yes.
Yep, of course. Some sort of like big barbarian of some sort, like a no armor, big axe, berserker.
Kind of.
Okay.
Depends. There's like elements of that character are in a bunch of different people.
Gotcha. Okay, let me ask a more general question. What sort of things do any of the playable characters ride? Are there dragon riders? Are they just regular knights? Do we get any people riding things?
So the dragoons they ostensibly can ride dragons, but they do not ever have a mount. I don't think there is a mounted character.
Okay.
Though there is a dragon.
Wait, so you don't have a mounted character, but you do just get a dragon?
The little baby dragon named Draggy. That egg you stole?
Oh, shit, from the bird?
Yeah, from the bird.
That's a dragon egg?
That's a dragon egg. You can hatch it into a little baby dragon.
So
really
just
good.
some of the characters. So I played this game for maybe, let's say 45 minutes, an hour, not that long.
Yep.
Right? Some of the characters I already ran into. So there's the floating magician.
Who's awesome.
He's awesome. That's the most normal one I'm going to mention in this list. The floating magician, like Gino said, there's the dragon. I didn't get to see it, but I did steal the egg. There's the clown skeleton.
Yep.
He's just a head when you get him, but he becomes the skeleton clown.
Yeah, and you can actually meet his mom, which
Really?
is pretty crazy. Yeah, you actually didn't run into her, but in Termina, the town you were in, his mom is there, and she's like, "Hey, if you ever find my son, he wanted to be a clown, and he's gone, and I just want to see him again." And you can select his skull from your inventory items to try to use on his mom.
Oh man!
And he comes out of your inventory. He's like, "No, not like this."
Good call, Skull Clown.
Skull Clown, unfortunately, is a bad character. Like, he's bad in combat, but
Yeah, well.
he's one of the more funny characters.
There's also Pink Dog that we didn't get, but that's another. There's just a pink dog. You give a bone, and he joins up.
Yep.
And then there is 6'3" straw voodoo doll with a massive nail through his chest.
Mojo, everyone's favorite.
Right. So that's, and then you have like 2 sort of pretty regular humans. And I didn't even get all the characters I could have potentially gotten in 45 minutes. And
Yes.
those I've met all those. It's ridiculous. The game is absurd.
There's a California doctor. There's a kung fu shopkeeper
Of
who
course.
does drunken master stuff.
Of course he does drunken master stuff. I
She
mean,
does drunken master
she,
stuff.
excuse me, even better. Of course she does drunken master stuff. Is there any more is there any more celebrated and less like relevant fighting style than drunken master kung fu?
No, it is the most evocative yet the least useful.
Incredible Jackie Chan movie. I blame him.
Yeah, he's a talented actor.
Yes.
Unfortunately, his acting has afflicted us with a bunch of shitty knockoff replicas. I just want to see someone who's a drunken master expert go and get into the octagon.
I was just about to say that. I would pay infinite dollars to watch an MMA pay-per-view that had somebody who's drunken master style. Infinite dollars.
I guess that's the insidious nature of the drunken master style, even with both of us knowing that it's probably really bad in
Yeah, he's gonna
actual
get
combat.
wrecked, but I'll watch it.
It's just 5 seconds in, he's like doing the, oh, I'm going to slip, and then the guy just clocks him in the
Right.
face.
Just blast him with a double leg and it's over.
I bet it would be fine until you get to the ground game, because then the sliding side to side and doing funny movements
I would eat like
ceases to matter.
I would even watch it if he didn't want to deal with the ground. I would even watch it in like a K1 kickboxing match, like Muay Thai or something. That would still be great.
Yep, I would. Unfortunately, it seems to only exist in the movies.
Right? I've never like I've just looked up gyms at some point in my life when I was looking for places to train. I've never seen anybody. I've seen like praying mantis. I've seen all kinds of stuff. I've never seen anybody advertise as a drunken master gym. Where do you
I'm a
learn it?
12th generation drunken master teacher from the great Jackie Chan. I studied under him.
Oh man, if you could trace like if you could trace your lineage to Jackie Chan, I would go to that gym to learn drunken master.
One day. Uh, yeah. So there is a drunken master character in Chrono Cross. There's an alien, an actual space alien. There's a prehistoric child. There's a bunch of weird freaking characters in that game.
Well, when they have like 90 of them, they need to sort of branch out a little bit to fill all these slots.
Yep. And it's a shame because ultimately each character is kind of an empty vessel for elements to fill. And so the differentiators between them tend to be just like what is their base stats? What are their special abilities? They get 3. Each character gets up to 3. And then what are like their slots for elements? Because some characters have more advantageous slot distributions than others. Like Vaughn, the main character, like as you level up, you get access to more and more slots for magic, and not Vaughn, Surge.
Surge. Yep.
Yeah, the main character, he has like a pretty well-rounded base. Like he's got, I think, 3 slots for level 1, 3 slots for level 2, 2 slots for level 3, and as it gets bigger, he gets access to those spells, but fewer as it goes further. Whereas characters like Guile, that magician you got, he has very few slots at 1 and 2, but has a ton at like 4, 5, 6, 7, which means he gets to cast high-level spells over and over and over again, whereas most characters might have access to 1 per fight. He might have access to 3.
And he's just generally a badass.
He's generally a badass. I mean, his first special ability is to make his wand disappear and then erupt out of his opponent's chest like an alien.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Every time he does it. Yeah, so that game is crazy. And it goes some places, man. One day we'll play more of it. Like, whatever you think the twist is with the multiple dimension stuff, it's not as crazy. What do you think it is, actually? Let me just ask that.
I know, I want to see it. If I had to guess, see, you've said it now, so I want to picture something outrageous. But if I had to guess, like the simple and most obvious thing, it would be Shadow Puppet Master, where like all this time somebody's been standing in the background rewriting history for some nefarious purpose. I know that's generally vague, but that's what I would go for.
You're closer than... It's even
right?
it is crazier than that.
I'm close insofar as like that's sort of a fairly obvious thing to pick, and I
Yeah,
was
it's
vague enough that it could have covered a lot.
yeah, it's close in that you've seen a JRPG before,
Right. I
and
know
you
at
know
some
that it's
point there's going to be the big bad, and then there's going to be the real big bad. Yeah, right. Like
there's
that's
an even shadowier puppet master,
right.
and they have to do with the very fabric of reality.
It's like, okay, there's one guy like, okay, I just want to like rule this kingdom, and there's like, but wait, the universe crumbles in my hands. Like,
Yeah, there's one other guy who's like, but wait, if I control physics, I
right.
control all.
Always.
Yep. And I think was Chrono Trigger. So Chrono Trigger was that the last game we played when you were here? Did you bolt
Yeah, Chrono
during
Cross. I
Chrono
left
Cross? Sorry, Chrono
right at
Cross.
the end of that.
Yeah. And then me, my sister Noelle, and then Jen, my wife, we played Silent Hill after you left.
The first one.
The first Silent Hill.
Nice.
Yep.
You picked a going. You didn't subject them to the room.
No. We played Silent Hill 1 because Noelle likes scary games and scary things. So
Good.
I thought it was appropriate.
Yeah.
And that game's controls are bad.
Has she played? Shit. What was the one we just played?
Detention?
Yeah.
No. I told her she should, but her computer does not. I don't know if it can run
Gotcha.
too many games. But I told her she should play Detention.
Yeah, she'd like it.
And that's one that's actually pretty easy to play. Like her problem with Silent Hill was just I don't know if have you ever played Silent Hill?
I never played the first one, no.
It has tank controls.
Oh, so you have to point and then walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Like
that's how normal people move.
Yeah, forward and backward actually move you forward and backward, but if you go left or right, you just turn.
Gotcha.
So forward, like up and right, just makes you spin. It doesn't make you actually move in that direction, which is annoying. Also, you have to like enter combat stance in order to attack. And luckily, Noelle just set it to easy, which made combat actually easy. Otherwise, that game would have been a slog.
Yeah.
But we were able to get decently far into it, and I gotta say, some of the scares in that game still work. Like,
Yeah.
some of the stuff they do is still disturbing.
There's a reason why it's like become the standard for survival horror.
Yeah, there was a really cool sequence in one of the school levels where some of the doors were locked, and you have to go through some of these other doors so that you can circle around. And I went into one room, and it's just an empty classroom or an empty like library room. Get some items. Open another door. It's another part of the library depository, and I see like shadows, and I walk over to it, and in my my flashlight, there are these 3D like babies that are just silhouettes they look like shadows and silhouettes that are only cast when my flashlight shines on them. When I turn my flashlight away, they disappear.
Okay.
And then I'm like, well, fuck. And so I just start busting shots, like assuming they're enemies. And they just start falling and vanishing. I'm like, well, fuck, that was spooky as hell. Were those even enemies? I don't even know what the heck that was. And then I open the next room, because they didn't attack me or anything. They just seemed scared. And then I open the next room, and there's a tiny little baby monster with a knife. And I'm like, oh, that's a nice... The first one, like, sets you, oh, it's safe. The second one shows you something that freaks you out but is not actually dangerous.
At no point was that safe.
And then the third one is not safe at all.
No.
So I thought Silent Hill, still effective. They still have their weird, obtuse puzzles that make no sense. I still feel like Detention is all the best things about Silent Hill without any of the occult bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I've never played Silent Hills, but Detention definitely has it's great. Well, I can just say that. It's great.
Yeah. Silent Hill has, like, all the puzzles in Detention are relevant to the story it is trying to tell. Silent Hill, they are also relevant, but the story they are trying to tell is of a secret witch cult that unlocks, like, some ancient evil demon, and that is not as interesting.
I think, and I've seen the movie, and I think the movie makes even less sense than the game.
Well, Silent Hill 1, the movie is basically Silent Hill 1.
Yeah.
With Pyramid Head for no real reason.
Just because he, He has to be there pretty much.
Yep, just because that's the most recognizable Silent Hill character.
Yeah.
And then we signed off after Silent Hill. So I think that's Extra Life. We are currently sitting at $360 donated when I last checked.
That's good work.
Is solid for our first attempt. We did not, beat quite as much pavement as we could have. But I think that's a good starting spot.
Yeah, it gives us something to build on.
Yep. If anyone wants to still donate, you can do so. Just look on Extra Life, look for That Pinguino or Gino Greco.
Mm-hmm.
And then happy to say the Giant Bomb team, which I joined because we were doing this last minute, and I thought, let's join the team that I know some folks who were involved with it. And they crossed $1 million raised since they started doing this in 2011.
Nice. Excellent work all around. And, like we said the whole time, it's for a great cause. So every little bit helps.
Yep. So thank you, everyone who watched, and thank you for everyone who supported. Luckily, we were lucky enough to have some people watching almost all the time, which I know is not the case for everyone. So thank you to all of our fans who were watching and supporting and chatting with us, keeping us sane. It's hard. It's hard. If I learned anything during the community endurance runs, it's that when no one is watching or no one is commenting, that's what drives you insane.
Yeah.
When you just have to make small talk with yourself. You never learn how many audio ticks you have until you have to fill time for 10 hours. And
as hard as it is to just fill that time, having other people interacting with you makes it infinitely easier.
Yes, definitely so. So thank you, Pete, for coming up and helping fill time.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Gino. It was, like I said, a pleasure.
And thank you to all of our fans. Remember, if you want to get in touch with the show, do so at deeplistenspod, deeplistens.libsyn.com, or deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Till next time. And remember, the next podcast will be Hellblade.
I was just going to say, just a reminder what we're doing next.
Yep, Hellblade next week. So, till next time, peace!